What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wrestling Informer with Billy Body, episode 2 here on K100's YouTube channel. Billy, we're going to get into some things, but first, got to tell everybody where we're at. I'm Cav Manning from the Lingus Mafia podcast. You can find all my nonsense at Lingus Mafia. Billy is to be found mostly at lockbetting.com, where he has tons of gambling packages for everybody, including wrestling gambling packages, which we can't really do here in the United States. I really wish, since everything is all predetermined, that's free money. So if you can gamble on wrestling, make sure you go there. He's also at Billy K100, and that's Billy with an I. People always get that wrong, Billy. I see it constantly. What's going on? How you been?
Yeah, so the lockbetting.com service, which I've got here on my screen, we just had our 100th month in a row of profit. So to translate what that means for 8 years and 4 months, I haven't had a single losing month in sports betting. So if you sign up to my packages, there are spreadsheets for all of these 100 months, including the pinned tweet on my gambling Twitter account, which is at SGP Soccer, stands for at Soccer Gambling Podcast Twitter, which is another podcast I'm on. And at Soccer Gambling Podcast Soccer, or even at
Sports Gambling Podcast Soccer is what it stands for.
Soccer, yeah. But I mean, it's weird because the show's called the Soccer Gambling Podcast. So at SGP Soccer doesn't really relate to anything. It's at SGP Soccer. So I guess, yeah, it's Sports Gambling Podcast Soccer. But the point is that if you go to that Twitter account, you will see the spreadsheet from the previous month. So I've replaced the month of August with the month of September. That is the 100th month. And I thought it was going to be a sweaty month because notoriously in sports betting, September's the hardest month because the soccer season just started. You have players at different fitness levels. You have some players that played for their countries in the summer. You have some players that are playing in the league and the Champions League because the Champions League gets started as well, and they're playing more games. And you have players that are adjusting to their new teammates. So soccer's hard. NFL weeks 1 to 3 are a nightmare. You have to be really good to make money in NFL's weeks 1 to 3. And even with the US Open Tennis, which is the Grand Slam, the last Grand Slam tournament of the year, you're dealing with injuries, fatigue, like burnout. You have to handicap around all of that. Everything is hard. Well, we made 12 units immediately by killing the US Open. So I was relaxed already because I knew however difficult soccer and NFL was, I wasn't going to lose 12 units. I ended up making £4,148, which is $5,500. That's in a month. So these guys sign up for my top package for $125. They turn that into $5,500 in a month. So I don't know how much that gets you, whether that pays your rent for the year, your mortgage for the year, whether it gets you on a couple of nice holidays, gets you a car, depending on what you want to drive, whatever. Like, I done that for you in a month with my service.
And what's good is it's very transparent. Like you said, you have all your spreadsheets. So there's none of these other people that are BSing people and, oh, yeah, this is my record. Well, where is it? And they don't show anything. You have everything up there for everybody to see. So
yeah, call my hotline for my pick. And
yeah.
I never find out how last week's pick done or anything.
So a lot of stuff is on the Dirty Sheets podcast, which is our NFL show as well. That's over on the Dirty Sheets podcast. This show is going to be half. It's a simulcast here. We're going half on the Dirty Sheets because we're going to talk a little bit about what happened this week in wrestling when it came to the draft mostly. And then when it comes to all the news that Billy has with his Informer stuff, we are going to be on the Conan, keeping it 100 YouTube for everybody to watch. So you'll want to transfer over. We'll let you know when we're leaving and going straight to there. But if you're watching this, you're good to go already. So
that's a good point. Yeah. If you're watching this, you don't have to do anything. We're only mentioning this for the people who download the Dirty Sheets podcast. If you're listening to that, you're going to get like 35 minutes. And then obviously you'll have to come over to this video and find the part that you're up to where we start talking to the news about the news on the Wrestling Informer.
So there's always issues. We've always laughed, and we usually will text each other the minute these things happen in the draft. Right. I wanted to do a round with you for this and be that you have no idea my suggestion here and what we're going to do. I want to do if this is a real draft because we know they screw this up all the time and it makes no sense what they do. And I think it was pretty glaring the very first night. So I want to do 5 rounds with you. You be SmackDown, I'll be Raw. You pick a guy, I'll pick a guy. We go back and forth, only 5 rounds. And I want to see what you say, and you could hear what I say, and see if it's exactly what I think is going to be.
Okay, but is everybody in it? Because what they did is they made a pool of people available on SmackDown for SmackDown and a different set of people on Raw. Did you know that?
Yeah, but I think that's complete nonsense too, because it doesn't make sense to me when they have these rules, which they don't tell you who's not allowed. They didn't say, well, here's the pool that we can't do. I think they announced it. Maybe they didn't announce it this year, but definitely last year you knew who the pool was. So let's say everyone's in the pool. You're SmackDown. Who are you taking first?
Roman.
Okay, of course. So since you took the champion over there, I guess I will take Big E because he's the other champion and I need a champion for my show. Who's next for you?
Well, okay, they didn't. Obviously, she was only eligible on Monday, but I would take Becky next because I don't want to lose that title either.
Okay, see where the difference is. What I would do, I would risk and try to sneak in here and get Nakamura because I want the IC title on my show. So
same principle.
Sure. Yep. So who's your next one then?
Well, if you took the IC title, then I will take Damian Priest to make sure I have the US title.
Okay. All right. And since you have Becky, then I'll take Charlotte. So I now have the women's title on my show as well.
Right.
One of the women. Okay. So now you're
all those picks were pointless because you took everybody from Raw that had the belts and you're Raw, right? And I took all my champions as well. So that shouldn't even be a thing. Well, I don't think champions should change over.
I don't either.
When that red belt goes to the blue brand,
and they hand it over.
Well, I don't even know if they'll do the handover. I think if they were going to do the handover, they probably should have done it. I think maybe what they might do is have both of them lose their belts because they're doing all of these funky like cross-brand matches at the pay-per-view that makes no sense. Because they're saying we're doing this draft, but just ignore it for 3 weeks and
it's after the Crown's rule, then it counts. So
why didn't you just do it after? So the matches were less predictable at the pay-per-view. So we don't know that Drew is 100% losing to Big E.
Yeah, I mean, and would your next pick be a tag champ, obviously? So you get a tag title on your show?
I didn't care about tag team wrestling, but yeah, probably.
Well, in real life. And then it's either going to be Drew or Bobby is going to be the next pick, right? And the other person.
But here's the thing. I think this picking format that we're doing says a lot about the draft because back in the day, when you've got Kane, Undertaker, Hogan, Rock, Austin, these are all people from the 2012 draft. Remember the first one? Where Ric Flair's first pick was Undertaker. Vince's first pick was The Rock. You might not remember that, but I do.
Yeah, you remember a little too much.
NWO, I think we're in it too. So you're not going to go like, oh, I'm going to get on my champions. You're going to go, oh, you got Rock, I got Austin. He's got Undertaker. I'm going to take, an NWO or something. They have like real stars. If you're looking around and you're going, okay, so he took the world champions. Do I take the women's champion or do I take whoever the Intercontinental champion is? Or do I look at the stars? Is Drew big enough for me not to take a title? Is Rollins big enough for me not to take a title? It's embarrassing that they're not because they don't book these talents or elevate them properly. So you're actually thinking, I will take a title because I don't think these stars are elevated to enough of a level where they're going to do anything for my show. And it's a weird thing because Drew was right there before. And his booking has just been so bad. I mean, and even to a certain extent, you would even think Lashley was there. But Lashley's a guy that's just lost over and over again to Big E just before the draft. So,
yeah. And I think your idea more so of no champions should be drafted, they stay where they're at, is the way to go, because then it is really up in the air for everyone else to where, oh, who's the best person that does not have a title I want?
There's other reasons for that too, because if you don't do it like the way we're doing it, you take the champions early. If a champion goes in the third round, like I believe they did, you're thinking, gee, what a belt, what a champion. It buries the champion as well. And if you do take them too early, then you have the visual of Seth Rollins is in round 2, Keith Lee's in round 3, Karrion Kross is in round 5. You want to get these guys drafted as early as they can, so they go, oh, I'm a second round pick, I'm a first round pick. Like, you don't want to overcrowd that with champions. The number one pick shouldn't be Roman Reigns. The number one pick should be a talent who you're trying to get over. What would it do for Karrion Kross's career if somebody had picked him in the first round, and you would have had the license to do that had you not overcrowded this with champions that didn't need to be in there?
My first thing, like you said, obviously they're doing the whole, some can be selected, some can't, because Raw needs to have something on their show to select and make a star out of, make a big event out of. And when I saw, like, okay, they take a woman champion, and then the next woman is Bianca Belair, and I'm like, what the hell? And that's where I lose my mind, where I'm like, if they want to make this realistic, they need to take the champions first or have the champions unavailable. I'm like, why would you not have Becky? But like we said, of course, they're doing
what
this.
What about like taking the new Japanese or Chinese? I'm not sure what she is from NXT.
That Xia, yeah,
Xia Li. I believe she went before Karrion Kross.
And a lot of the time the crowd is chanting who when somebody's come over. Right. And it's like, oh my God. I mean, on the news segment we get to, there is something about this too on there, which is like, where's this coming from? Obviously, SmackDown is, as they always say, the land of opportunity. And that's when it's going to go on over there. But from get-go with some of this nonsense they do, and when they had the Uso thing happen, the whole drama fest about on SmackDown, they had said, hey, don't let them be drafted to Raw. They have to be on SmackDown. This was a big thing. Oh, something to look forward to. There's going to be a story. They didn't do anything about it. Paul's sitting there yeah, I fixed it. There wasn't even, I was 100% thinking they're getting drafted to Raw, and then there has to be some nonsense that happens to get them back over to SmackDown because Paul's in trouble and freaking out and everything. There was zero reason. Why did they even travel to Tennessee or wherever to do this? To do absolutely nothing. They don't do anything. Yeah, they can't be bothered with a story.
So I didn't even have this in my notes because I didn't think it was a great story, but that was simply down to the fact that they decided for budget reasons and through time reasons that they were not going to send Brock to Raw. They even advertised Brock to be on Raw because Brock was supposed to be on both shows in the draft. And they just decided that we don't need him to be there. So that was what that was.
This company, it's one thing after another. It really is. There is no lack of material when it comes to pointing out everything that's wrong with them.
No. And this is the thing. Like I gave some draft news out last week. I don't know if it was on this show. I believe it was on the free show. Where I was talking about the fact that Balor was going to be coming over to Raw. I have more information about Balor and whatnot later on the other side of the show. Sheamus was 100% going over to SmackDown. Obviously, some stuff became clear that Becky was going to move over when Charlotte moved over. But some of that other stuff was late in terms of them feeling like, we can move Sheamus over because the story is going to be that Sheamus has only not won the Intercontinental title. We're going to move Balor over because Balor can't face Roman again. Some of this stuff was set in stone. Drew McIntyre moving to SmackDown was set in stone, but there was some talk as to whether they would move over Lashley and Drew at one point because, the situation with The Rock. How confident are we about The Rock? Do we need more opponents over there? Do we need a Mania opponent over there? Do we need Drew over there for Mania? Do we need Drew over there for SummerSlam in the UK? Which is going to happen. The 30th anniversary of SummerSlam is going to be in the UK. So there was a lot of talk about saving things and how they were going to do things at the main event level. The smaller stuff, like, as I mentioned, Carmella, Finn Balor, Sheamus, all people I knew, was out earlier. The Becky thing was a weird one because that was very much a case of prior to this that Lesnar and Becky were going to be over on SmackDown because WWE have a bad relationship at the moment with Fox in terms of many things. The numbers not being high enough. Some of that was forgiven for the pandemic. Not signing up CM Punk. Going deeper into a deal with NBC when Fox wanted an expansive relationship with them, where they were looking to expand what the WWE was worth in terms of especially identifying factors where they felt like WWE could grow. That's why we saw 2 back-to-back West Coast WrestleManias booked. SoFi Stadium, WrestleMania 37, and Vegas Stadium, WrestleMania 38. Now, these things didn't happen because of the pandemic, but the idea is that Fox identified that WWE's Hispanic viewership had dipped and that Fox could really get those people in because Fox is available to all the Hispanic communities and in subtitles, not subtitles, closed captioning, and also you can have Spanish commentary if you want as well for WWE. So they didn't feel like they were really doing enough with that. So they wanted to hit that market hard. They had big plans for WWE and what they wanted to do with them. But as I said, there's issues with the ratings. There's issues with CM Punk. There's issues with the fact that, and the CM Punk thing, in case you guys don't know, Fox were aware. Fox brought Punk in to make peace with WWE and Punk. And then they were aware that he was talking to AEW, at which point Fox decided to let WWE know, and WWE said that made up all these excuses that Punk wasn't worth what Cena was. Punk wasn't worth what Edge was. And they used all of these almost false numbers where they were looking at Punk's overall metrics for his time in the WWE. And we all know as fans that Punk wasn't pushed until 2011. It was his first, 4 or 5 years was essentially him being in the mid card and getting stop-start pushes with a lack of merchandise. Once he actually had merchandise, which was substantial, he beat John Cena in T-shirt sales. Like he was the first guy to do it since 2005. But WWE didn't say that. They were just saying like how Edge was worth $3 million a year and Cena was worth $3 million for the 1 month he did. But CM Punk wasn't worth the $3 million in terms of matching the AEW offer. So Fox didn't really buy into that, to their credit, because they do have people there that do know wrestling, and they turned around and said that we'll match whatever you want to pay. If you think he's worth 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, we'll pay the rest. And then WWE then come back with another excuse that said he was a locker room cancer. He was miserable to be around. He was miserable when he made other people miserable. Nobody wants him back. At which point you can't argue. So just to finish, you got the Punk issue, you got the ratings issue from the pandemic where you haven't delivered. You've gone and done a deal with NBC and Peacock, which when Fox wanted to do more with you. And obviously you haven't delivered with Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar throughout. And previously you told them that you were that the Fiend was your new big star and he was going to be featured on SmackDown. And even the Fiend ends up going over to Raw as well. So just throughout this entire thing, it's been like lie and let down and lie and let down. It was actually a big meeting between WWE and Fox to try and sort out this relationship. And then shortly after that, we see Becky moving across after she's doing little ad spots with Fox and everything. And she's seen as a big draw. So I was surprised to see that happening. There must have been talks in terms of saying that, hey, look, you get Charlotte for Becky. It's pretty equal. And obviously in January, you're going to start getting Dwayne Johnson on your TV show. So I believe that they were appeased with that. And of course, McIntyre goes over as well. I don't know. I would love to say that is a big deal. And because obviously I know Drew, and I would love to say that was a big bargaining chip. But if I said that, I would be lying. And not that I'd be lying in terms of it is a big bargaining chip, but I would be just saying it blindly without actually having the information. I know that Becky is a big deal. I know that Brock is a big deal. I know The Rock is a big deal. I knew Bray Wyatt was a big deal. And I know that they've all ended up on Raw. So apart from The Rock. So I believe that with all of this happening, and look, SmackDown got battered in the draft. Look at the draft. Look at the last night on the Raw draft. They ended up with Sheamus was their top guy that went over on Monday. Then on Thursday, or on this Friday, sorry, you got Charlotte and Drew. They had the 3 main people that SmackDown got. Look at the Raw side of things again. They ended up getting Becky Lynch. They ended up getting Seth Rollins. They ended up getting Edge. Yeah, they got the Mysterios as well, which is not going to help with your West Coast demo or your Hispanic demo. So, I mean, I don't know how many Hispanic people watch and go, hey, I really want to watch Rey Mysterio's on the show. Like, I don't know how much that exists anymore. But yeah, I mean.
And Kevin Owens goes back and forth every draft.
Well, Kevin Owens is only going to be there for 4 months. So
you think he's really going to be out of here?
I think he's going to be out of there. And I think if Sammy's not on the same show as the Mysterios, I think he's going to be out of there too. Because I don't know why Sammy didn't go over with the Mysterios if he's going to be the guy in Dominic's ear.
He's got 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
And they wrap up stories quickly.
Yeah. So, yeah. And he's on a different show to them. So that story has already been dropped. So, I mean, it was, for me, I thought it was like a lot. Dowler as well is another one. Didn't mention him. He's gone to Raw. So, yeah, I felt like it was a lopsided Bianca. Names are just like coming to me. Carmella as well. With the Carmella thing, I think that's someone that's improved a lot. I think that this company seemed that they're going to go very much in a direction of we're looking for champions of ethnicity that can be stars. So your Sashas and your Biancas, obviously with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, that was central to what happened in the main event of WrestleMania. And then
Liv went over.
Yeah. Liv's another one in terms of I think there's a story behind that where she's not interested in signing a contract now after what happened to her on Money in the Bank. So I believe that could be another person to keep an eye on in terms of thinking to themselves, I'm done with this. I'm done with this like stop start pushes and everything like that. She could be another person that could be on her way. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to watch how many of these guys just end up going, and obviously how WWE make it up to Fox. But I think the main objective when you do drafts is to find opponents for Roman Reigns and find opponents for Big E. And I do think that they did an okay job with that, because with Big E, you can immediately see him obviously having that match with Drew. That's a SmackDown match. Then you've still got AJ Styles over there. You've still got Randy Orton over there. You've got Edge that came over there as well. I don't think the Lashley thing's done. I think Brock Lesnar's a free agent because he's going to end up over there too. So, yeah, I mean, there's tons of shit for Big E to do. And if he drops the belt, there's tons of stuff for Lashley to do. I'd be more worried about the SmackDown thing. They seem to have gone down the young route where they've got that Xia Li. They're going to do something with Hit Row. My main takeaway from Hit Row, and when I asked sources about what's going on with that Hit Row thing, they said that was the biggest surprise of them all, because Hit Row are central to what NXT is supposed to be. Like the picture that they're trying to paint over at NXT 2.0, that's supposed to be centered around people like Hit Row and acts like Hit Row with the whole cool and urban thing. And they go over. And I think with that happening, the main takeaway from that was that Vince McMahon may already be bored of the facelift on NXT. And we know this happens with him. Like, this is a guy who has massive like attention span issues. Like, we're looking at
ADD.
a guy. Yeah, we're looking at a guy that 2 weeks ago introduced a rule in tag matches where you can only break up pinfalls once. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, that got mentioned one time, and I've never heard it ever.
Yeah, for a week he decided that you can only break up pinfalls once. He had is it Jimmy Smith? Jimmy Smith turn around and say, "Oh, that's Rhea's like one. That's a one breakup that she can do." That's going to be.
They even almost made fun of it when they said it too. They were like, "Oh, that's a rule."
Yeah, and that's going to be like a nightmare to maintain if they haven't already dropped it. But this is Vince McMahon. I love Hit Row. Hit Row is going to be exactly what NXT 2.0 is. Oh, actually, We need him on SmackDown. Boom, done. Like they're off the NXT brand, despite one guy holding the North American title and being in the middle of a feud with another group. It's stupid.
Let me give you some quick hits and give me a couple semi-quick answers.
I just want to ask you a question, like quickly before we move off. We're never going to talk about. We're hardly ever going to talk about NXT 2.0.
Yeah.
But what do you think of like Braun Breaker when he starts talking? Who do you hear?
You know, it's funny because when I first saw him, I had no clue who he was.
And then you heard his voice.
And the first thing I saw, and when I saw him and heard him, I said, wow, he really looks like one of the Steiners. It was I'm like, and then I had no idea. And I was like, wow, yeah, he's wearing a singlet and everything. And of course, it's why do you have to change people's names? You could build off of that. I mean, they do the whole next generation.
Like, even more than the look, though, is when he opens his mouth. Like, what? That is like that.
The quirky look to him.
No, I mean, I'm talking when he talks. Like it's Scott
mannerism.
Steiner. It's Scott Steiner. It's like the voice is 100% Scott Steiner.
Or
like,
Rick.
Do you think Rick and Scott sound exactly the same?
To a point. I mean, Scott's turned into something else, obviously, you know, from when he turned into a crazy man. Then it was a lot different.
But I think he'll end up with their title, and I think that like that's like the main thing you build around. I do not understand why it isn't Rex Steiner though.
I don't understand either. That's why I say they push that whole next generation stuff and how many generations of superstar they are, and they just ignore. And I'm like,
I guess that's when you're on good terms with the generation though. I think like now Charlotte might be. You know, after the whole thing with Ric Flair, she could be like
Charlotte
Wilson. Charlotte Wilson.
Here comes Charlotte Wilson. So speaking of pushing to the top quickly, here's one for you that I see during the Raw draft where I wanted to throw something at my television. Gable Steveson is drafted to the Raw. The guy has learned to do a somersault in professional wrestling. He just got signed weeks ago. And he's now on Raw, and they make it like he's in a real draft, and he's backstage hugging his parents and clapping. Yeah. Holy, come on.
It's like they did that. It's like they did that pick that they go, oh, how about if we did this and we did an NFL thing for like one
guy.
For one guy. But without thinking of the fact that he can't wrestle. He can't go into a feud. He's completely missed NXT. But don't worry about that. What we need here is this one moment to make it look like we're the same as the NFL.
And we don't even know if he has personality. Like, obviously, I mean, good luck following Angle as Olympic gold medal. I mean, this is everyone looks at right away. And Angle's a different animal completely, the way he adapted and everything. And now it's like this guy has to have personality and be able to actually go in the ring in pro wrestling style. That's a lot to be throwing on this dude. That's, you know, an Olympic champion. Sure, he's an athlete, but this is a whole other animal. And to do this to him, I think it's almost a disservice. Unless they have seen him in this practice that we do not see and training, and they're like, oh my God, he doesn't even need training, how great he is. He's unbelievable. Can you imagine he comes in and actually is that good? Or like an idiot savant immediately.
Or even serviceable. Like you have people like Lana who are around for
practice for 8 years in their harm.
You hear a comment this week where she said, if I look like Charlotte Flair, I feel like if I look like Charlotte, they would have made me the champion.
Oh my God.
Did you not read that?
No.
It's like you look like you have everything.
Yes.
The look is not the problem. Like it's the fact that you're completely awful at everything else other than your looks. She actually turned around and went, the problem was I didn't look like Charlotte Flair. It's like how I thought she was deluded.
That's a handicap. If she looked like Charlotte and had
her talent,
Lana's skills, she wouldn't be there. She wouldn't be even close there. Speaking of some of these,
she'd be in a strip club.
Speaking of some of these women here or splits that we have in between Raw and SmackDown, didn't old Blackfart and Knox beat the champions multiple times and they were going to have a title shot? Well, now they're split up.
Oh, who are split up?
Knox and Shotzi.
They got split up.
They're split. They're on different shows.
See, I didn't follow the drafts.
I have the list of the entire draft for both sides, but Mace and old car antenna, they're split up. And Shanky and whoever the other guy is, they're split up. So it's like, I'm like, what are they going to do? For one, they're lucky to have a job, which I can't imagine they're going to be around much longer. But I understand the and Knox being quality and good to be able to, have single stuff. But how do you abandon these things they push them to be champions or at least be contenders? Well, then lose the match and then have now I have to go to another side.
The thing is, they were not even a tag team in NXT. So I was confused as to why they did it. Because Shotzi teamed with Ember Moon, who's doing nothing in NXT now because she's not part of the whole, the new fresh group. So she's just losing. She got beat by Mandy easy this week on NXT. So, and Mandy's getting a big push over there. Like one interesting bit of news, which is not on our list. So Mandy was the number one Google search in wrestling for the week.
No kidding, because of the outfit changes. I'm telling you, it's always the outfit changes. You have a different outfit all the time. That is half your battle. You got to look new and hot.
So before people correct me or anything like that, this wasn't Twitter or trending on Twitter or anything. She was Google searched the most this week. So that's a completely different thing. But yeah. So,
and another way to find out whoever goes to SmackDown or Raw, just find out who's with who, spouses, bang buddies, whatever, because that's automatic. Like you were like, okay, well, Carmella we know is going over because Graves is over there. Keith Lee, you're gonna get, and all of a sudden she's Mia Yim again. She's not whatever her name was in Retribution. We haven't seen her in God knows when, but she's with him over there now. So anybody who's with each other goes over. So,
what did you think overall about the shows? You feel like the pacing of the shows, the way it was done? My personal opinion, I still disagree with the starting with number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then carrying on. The first round, second round kind of thing. I think if you've seen the first round, I don't think you're as interested in rounds 5 or 6. They need to work on that, where back in the day, the last thing you saw. I mean, I remember John Cena coming out on Jericho's highlight reel. That was the first thing. They mixed it up. But, the last thing they ended up on, the last thing on SmackDown in the 2005 draft was, Batista coming out. That was it. Teddy Long even made them have a number 1 contenders match.
Had a bookend.
To crown who was going to be the new champion now that Raw had 2 champions. And then they said, oh, we don't need this match. The winner's not the new champion. The winner's JBL. You're not actually the champion. You're only the number 1 contender because our final draft pick is Batista, right? It keeps the drama going on throughout. They need to find a way where all of the main eventers are not picked at the beginning of these shows because there's no reason to watch. Then you're trying to get people to stay for whatever the main events were going to be.
You're right. They should have that whole, you have to win a match to be able to be picked next. What show gets to pick has to win the match. One of those things that they used to do. And I also used to like just the random pictures that would flash and then would stop on somebody. I like that too. Yeah.
I tell you what was miraculous for me this week, and I was really surprised. They actually did a bit that made sense where Big E and Drew were out there and Dolph Ziggler came out, and it was like, oh my God, they remember their history. And it's not fake history.
I even almost forgot the history.
It's like this is actually a thing that makes some sense that he's out there saying this thing to these 2 guys.
I was hoping I almost
feel like Ziggler wrote it. I feel like Ziggler might have wrote it himself.
I was really hoping, and I actually had hope for a second, that when he showed the clip of Big E, I totally thought they were going to show him where he punched AJ Lee in the chest. I was waiting for, because I'm like, that's their little shot, like the scorned girlfriend over for Punk, and that was something where he could say, look at how green and klutzy you were. You didn't even notice.
They could have had him kissing her because they used to make out.
With Caitlyn? Right? Oh, was he kissing AJ I know he kissed Caitlyn, but was he kissing?
No, he would make out with AJ with their legs wrapped around him. And Big E would stand there in the background like this.
I thought you meant kissing Big E. AJ. No, I got you. Yeah, she was kissing everybody. But yeah, so I was very surprised. I thought they would actually do that, but WWE reminds me of the scorned ex-girlfriend or even a scorned boyfriend that has to be a child afterwards. And they're like, so Punk didn't choose them. And then we didn't want him anyway. He's terrible in the locker room. They would have taken him in a heartbeat for double the money. But because he did not choose them, I didn't like, you're ugly anyway.
No, I don't think that will happen with this situation. I don't think he didn't choose them. They didn't want to talk to him. He was willing to talk to them. I
think he chose AEW and did not. I thought he did not pursue pretty much WWE. Like they wanted to talk to him, and he was just like, he's had it with them. He's still got a hair up his ass for them.
No, I think it's a different situation. I believe he was there on Fox, willing to talk to anybody. I actually believe the opposite to you. I believe that AEW was making offers the whole time, and he was waiting for WWE to do something because he was on Fox. And I think by the time, it got to, 2021, he finally told Fox, he said, look, this is the offer and I'm going to take it. And that's when Fox said, holy shit, like we need to stop this from happening because this defeats the whole point of why he brought him across. So I don't think that you sit on it and you're working for Fox essentially and being on WWE television. I don't think you do that for 18 months or I know he wasn't on for 18 months, but I don't think you wait 18 months if you want to work for AEW. You had a chance to go to AEW at the beginning. The money was the same. Like, I don't think you cared whether this one sunk or swim. At the end of the day, Tony Khan and his dad have got $7 and $11 billion. You were going to get paid. The company, this whole thing of like, oh, he wanted to see how it was. Well, this company could never fail because if you're judging AEW on financial success, it is failing because it loses money every single year. AEW is a financial failure because it loses money every year. But you can't judge it like that because this is a rich man's toy. We collect action figures. He collects the real men as action figures.
You collect action figures.
Right. All right, I collect action figures, but he collects the real people. His action figures are. I'm not gonna buy Elite Series 21 when CM Punk was the champion. I'm gonna buy
the person
CM Punk. Like, so how can you compete with that? Like, this guy is so ridiculously rich. All he's doing is having fun, like playing wrestling company promoter, and he's just, this is just him spending his money. You're watching a guy spending his money. Like, that's what you're doing.
If he could only make the Jaguars champions like he could make Omega and anybody else a champion, they'd be okay.
It's a salary cap, though, in the NFL.
Yeah, but you're still running things and okay. Well, I think we're done with what is on the simulcast now and what is being broadcast on the Dirty Sheets podcast. You can now go over to Keeping It 100's YouTube to see the rest of this show and hear the news that Billy has for this week. You could find us all over Twitter, Billy. We're busy on Twitter all the time. You're at Billy K100. You're also at SGP Soccer on Twitter. You want to go to lockbetting.com. I don't know where he's not. I think if you throw a rock, you'll find Billy somewhere.
I think Billy K needs to be spelled. It's BILLIK.
No IE like the ugly girl that speaking of ugly girls, Billy, do you know that the two hottest women in all of WWE are from San Jose? That's Bailey and Shotzi Blackheart. They're both from San Jose.
I know you don't think they're the two hottest women in WWE.
No. I'm just saying. I'm like, so if you go up the road to Concord, though, there's Eva Marie. But they're all from San Jose, which will be Smackdown this Friday, actually. I won't be attending. Thank you. All right. Let's go over everybody from Dirty Sheets. Go check us out. And that's at Real Dirty Sheets on Twitter, too. You can find exclusively for that show. See you next time, guys. All right. Now we are exclusively over on the Conan show here, the Keeping It 100 YouTube. So let me give you some topics, and you're going to tell me a couple things that what is going on. You ready?
Yeah, I just want to ask you first this week. Did you see or hear? I think it was Wade Keller criticizing Liv Morgan and saying that her people are talking about her being in the main event, but how can she get over when she comes across as low budget and trashy and everything?
Really?
Everything she's wearing. Everything she wears with like she had some like sign on her bum or whatever. He goes, everything you
watch
said,
me.
Yeah, watch me. He goes, everything she's doing and wearing is geared towards getting men to find her attractive.
Oh my god! He doesn't learn from Meltzer with the one needs to lose weight. He doesn't know to say stupid like this.
No, listen to how stupid the sentence is. Let me just repeat it. Everything she's doing is geared towards getting men to find her attractive.
Which is a plus. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. He thinks that is a negative point.
Oh God.
Where she is low budget and she's not going to get over because guys want to bang her. That is something to not like. I don't understand. Are these guys?
They will buy her merchandise. They will root for her to win things. They will be behind her, and they wish they were really behind her. But I mean, come on. This is why I only get my news from you. I don't ever go online, look for news, anything like that. I only hear news when somebody like sends it to me, and it's mostly you that send me the news. So
this isn't even news. This is a dork talking about attractive women. This is a dork trying to talk.
Has he been gotten in trouble yet?
Well, you're going to get in trouble for saying that her act is trashy and it's not.
Oh, he'll totally get in trouble for the way things are nowadays, where you can't say a word. You got to be kidding me.
I still say whatever I want, and I still end up on these platforms. Like, yeah.
I'm in your category because I don't care. Who gives a that's how my category goes. Whatever. I think that's what makes people listen to me and you more than anything else. We don't fold to that.
I said it's to Conan and Disco, like, and I said Russo was obviously fine, and I said to Conan, I say, look, sometimes I just say some like just whatever's on my mind. You want me to like have some more of a filter on your YouTube or whatever? He's like, I don't care. So,
which, by the way, after you told me not to swear last week, I was going to have a running count of how many times you swore after that.
Well, I know, Hughesy's going to watch the show back and he's going to just get all that stuff anyway. So
yeah, you didn't do too much today though, but I've been aware of it. I go, and what's funny is I got messaged right away and they go, when Billy told you not to swear, I stopped counting how many times he was swearing after that.
I think once you've done it already, I mean that's it. It's a hard time to cover. Like you've got idiots covering. Sometimes you talk about like real idiots in this industry, like the people that cover the news, the people that write the shows. Like you see some real stupid like on a week-to-week basis. It's hard not to swear. It's hard to just break this down and go, this is the news. This is what happened on Raw. This is what happened in fact. If you listen to our Dirty Sheet show weekly, when we do it, it's very non-PG. So I mean,
PC.
What's that?
And non-PC. You notice though, like on all these shows, even though we haven't gotten into news yet, we're still rambling. This is what happens on those Dirty Sheet shows. We just keep on going. Where all of a sudden it is the greatest word that's ever lived, and no one ever knew that they could say this word because now Rollins is saying it.
Right.
Someone yelled on NXT. There's a time and a place for if you're trying to do this shock value stuff, like I'm not supposed to say this. So when it does happen, it's more of a, oh my goodness, I can't believe I clutched my pearls. I can't believe they said this. But AEW, I don't know if it's not in each promo. Jericho, I think, said it twice in 2 sentences.
That social justice warrior character on NXT now, that Joe Gacy, he's getting some really big publicity across the magazines and that. There's a lot of fascination in the media towards him and how WWE played his character out. So I think this guy is going to get a push, Joe Gacy, because he's. I mean, it's clever to do what he's doing. He's playing a woke social justice warrior. He's basically Ryan Satin as a wrestler. Like if Ryan Satin was a wrestler, this is what he would be.
Do you watch NXT like regular every time?
I've been keeping an eye on the 2.0. Yeah.
Okay. So let me get into some topics here. You got a couple.
Right.
Let's get to I want to get to one that you kind of glanced over a little bit.
Mhm.
You pretty much talked about it. It was the Hit Row going to SmackDown.
Yeah.
So
Well-
what's the main thing you're hearing that other than Vince is just ADD?
Yeah, that's the story. Vince is AED. Like there's so many signs in the past of him being bored of certain things or him taking on new projects and putting it down. It happens with certain wrestlers in terms of we see wrestlers being pushed on TV and then we see them not being pushed on TV. I mean, we've seen things where he's had things for Angel Garza. I mean, kicking a rose up someone is a Vince thing, right? Remember
I
that?
thought that was fantastic. I actually loved when he did that. I completely forgot about that.
But it lasted a week.
Yeah,
and there are
it did.
There's like weird things like certain words being ruled out, certain rules with this stupid tag team rule. There's this whole thing of we're going to try and referee the matches properly. So if you think someone's shoulders down, count 3, and we'll call that the finish. That kind of stuff. That was weird. NXT just falls onto that boat. They wanted to like revamp it. It's like it's going to be hip. It's going to be urban. It's going to be like younger guys. It's going to be like real athletes. 3 weeks in, Hit Row, front and center of NXT 2.0, what it's all about. They're moving on to SmackDown. Doesn't really make any sense. And it's like a big indicator for people that Vince is bored again and he's not going to be playing with his toy as much as we thought he was going to be. So, yeah.
So do you find, I think the biggest mistake almost with this Hit Row thing is the big guy AJ being on that Hidden Treasure show. That's where you first saw him with all the stuff that he did. So he's a normal person and you get to know him as a normal human being. Now he's supposed to be like some gangster thug type of,
That was very odd that he was on that show though, because I thought he was some historian or some collector, but like, he was just a guy from NXT. I guess he is a collector, but he was also on NXT. I don't really know the story behind that, but it didn't click for me at first. I knew I'd seen him before, and then I had to go and Google it and then put the connection together. But I don't think it jumps out to you as well. Plus, I mean, if you look at the viewing figures on that show, you're looking at, 100K, 200K max. It's not that I don't think it's significant for me. Maybe for a hardcore.
Yeah, I got you. So give me some news about what are you hearing about Walter?
This chair is like, can you hear the squeaking on this chair?
Yeah,
it's really bugging me.
Stay still.
Yeah. So what Walter, it's sort of still linked to the draft. Oscar and Walter actually. Oscar was supposed to be picked somewhere. She was supposed to go to SmackDown. That was one bit of information I did not get right. Also, I believe Walter was going to be in the draft. He isn't. He wasn't in the draft. I believe that he may end up on SmackDown, only simply because SmackDown didn't get as many people in the draft, and you got Karrion Kross and Keith Lee as heels with winning streaks. I don't know how many heels you could have on winning streaks on the same show, because you don't want to beat Keith Lee as a heel. You don't want to beat Karrion Kross as a heel. I assume you want to get these guys to Big E or Damian Priest, who are your champions on that show. So I don't think you can put Walter on there doing the same thing. I think Walter will be a good opponent or a good feud for Drew McIntyre to have at some point because of those matches that they would have with the beating the shit out of each other. Because, Drew actually enjoys that. Drew actually...
the stiff stuff, yeah.
Oh, he enjoys it. Like, he likes getting bruised and tortured and kind of all that kind of shit. Like he loves to like lay in. I don't know what's wrong with the guy, but he enjoys that. He enjoys working with.
You got to know somebody's there. You got to know somebody's with you.
Yeah, it's not for me. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is his favorite stuff is when him and Sheamus get to work together, and they're best mates who like to. I mean, that's the thing. They really made that seem a little like lame on TV. There was a much better way of going in terms of making it out that these are two British guys that genuinely enjoy fighting, but they turned it all into, let's go down the pub, let's have like a beer. And it's like, it didn't need to be all that British, stereotypical. It just needed to be like, these guys like to beat the out of each other. Like that.
What do you think? What do you think of Walter anyway? Like, I don't know. I know they pushed him like a crazy person and like never lost, and then finally just did.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I know he's a big guy. He's not in like some great shape or anything either, and I don't think he's some microphone technician. What do you think? Is this a big England guy? I mean, for your people, what's going on?
I can tell why the stool is rocking because it's making noise. It's because it's actually breaking.
And you talk about Vince having ADD.
Well, I don't want to fall on the show.
I hope you do. If he fall, let it be on the show. I mean, come on.
No, that'll give people listen. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. It's bothering me now. I'm going to swap it out here.
Okay. Billy in progress. Like that. Billy producing.
Billy producing. I'm going to bring out my...
There you go. Pac-Man stool for you. Okay.
Pac-Man
you might
stool.
want to sit comfortably. You should probably flip it upside down.
All right.
Okay. Your thoughts on Walter though?
My thoughts. I don't think he'll get over with a casual audience. I think that thing about him being in shape. I think he's actually tried to get in shape. He's actually lost weight, but it seems like he just maintains that kind of physique. It's similar in some ways to Baron Corbin. I don't think that he was in any different shape to when he was when he played football. He just can't get a decent body. He's got that weird long belly or whatever that looks like a third eye. Some guys just have that. I don't know.
Like a guy that lost a ton of weight. That's what they look like. Like with Damian Priest got that too.
And that's the thing. Like I can put on weight, but which I have done during the pandemic. But if I lose it, I cut up nicely. So like that's. But some guys, yeah. I mean,
he's single, ladies. He's single and fellas.
Who are you talking about? Me?
Yeah. See, so you cut up nicely. Let them know.
Oh yeah.
Something.
They can just go back and watch me on the clips from when I was on television. It was all.
I was gonna say you're better looking now than you were on Big Brother. 100 times over.
I would take that. I would take that. This older head on that body, and then we got something. I think.
Yeah, we're gonna have a bet one day where you have to shave your beard like on this show or something. That'll be good.
I can bring my Aaron Rodgers back for you.
Your gay fireman's mustache.
Yeah, it's that. What's that? Movember coming? Do you have that in the States? Movember.
Yeah, Movember. No one shaves for November. Yeah, but it's terrible when it's a woman doing that. That's even worse. Especially the Italian women. They get a nice little mustache. Something historical happened on a recent tour. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so I talked about this with Disco and Conan just now, and Disco's like, that's a terrible story. No one cares about that. But I think we lost Cav. But I think that people actually do care about this. I'm just going to minimize my screen so I can bring him back in. I don't know why it always does this when we use the StreamYard. Oh, he's back. You can hear the story.
Yeah, thank God, because I'm like, I need to hear this story.
All right.
StreamYard. Okay, go ahead.
So obviously recently we had the Dark Side of the Ring of the plane ride from hell. And I actually have a crazy story about how me and my buddy almost actually ended up on that plane ride from hell. But I already told it. I already told it on the Keep It 100. So you can listen to it there. I'll tell it again on next week's Dirty Sheets. So that encourages you to download our podcast simply because it's going to be, I think the wrestling is going to hit the skids this week after the draft with all those new people on there.
It's a good story too. I've heard it. So you'll want to.
It's not even the new people. It's the old people like killing time for 2 weeks. So that's definitely going to be a show, an edition of the Dirty Show. An edition of the Dirty Sheets is going to need padding out with this.
However, things might happen because they're doing the whole. Well, it's 3 weeks or whatever the hell, 2 weeks, whatever, until things change. So maybe there is room for some craziness to happen, like last second, where people, if they switch, they got titles, things like that. So titles may change.
I can see something like Bianca winning one belt and keeping it on Raw, and Sasha winning the other belt and keeping it on SmackDown. I can see that. I don't know that though. That's not in my information. So getting back to this, plane ride from hell, 2002. Me and my buddy almost got on that flight. We were definitely right next to the plane in Luton Airport. But as I said, I'll tell that story on the next episode of the Dirty Sheets. But bringing back to my point, fast forwarding 19 years later, there was a baby on the WWE tour. A baby traveled on the tour buses.
Times are different.
Times are very different. It was the baby, of course, of Seth Rollins and Becky. This baby actually comes with them to all of the shows and the world tour to England. So 10-month-year-old baby went to, or 9-month-year-old baby, sorry, back then at that time, went onto the UK tour, traveled to the arenas, the tour buses, everything was there with them the whole time. All of these guys who were on the tour experienced traveling with a baby.
You know, I am stunned by what shape Becky is in. She's in better shape now than she was before she had a kid.
She was in better shape. She's in better shape than she's ever been in.
Yes. Like, talk about cut up nicely. She's like sharply cut up. I guess there's no brand or anybody watching the kid, you know, with a beer in their hand. And, you know, nowadays they go home and play video games. They don't go to bars or anything.
No, but the Velveteen Dream offered to look after it.
It is a female, right? Okay.
Yeah, where do you put Becky now any higher? Because Cav does a yearly contest where
Miss Lingus. We have it's around the March Madness time, and we have all of our listeners. We send them all ballots, and they all vote, and nobody knows what the real ballot is because they're all mixed up. So anyone that listens to the show then hears the final and never is spoiled before then. So the more this show goes, the more people are going to be voting when it comes time for Miss Lingus 2022. And I think there's going to be a big changing this next year with a lot of new people coming in.
So where do you think that Becky would rate
I
now?
still don't think she is beating out the top tier people.
Okay, let's say Liv Morgan goes to AEW.
Yeah.
Let's say that Scarlett continues to stupidly stay off TV.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible to look at. And let's say Alexa, this hiatus is actually, you know, a while. Say she's off TV for 4 or 5 months. I don't think she will be because she was involved in the drafts. But let's say Alexa. Okay, so if Alexa comes back as blonde Alexa, I think she'll win. But like, if let's say she doesn't, where would you say?
Do you think Eva Marie doesn't beat Alexa?
She does for me, but I don't know how people vote. Your guys, they do vote primarily on looks. Sometimes if these marks start getting involved, they'll start to think about who they like to personally and who they like to watch wrestle.
There are some, though, that look at these different ones when they vote, and personality does come into it. Because a lot of times before it was like, you know, people hated Lana, and that's what would sink her ship. Great looking girl. If you only saw her as modeling pictures, but that personality, she gets voted out. And the same with Sasha. She gets voted out because of that.
If only Lana looked like Charlotte Flair, don't you think she would have been a champion?
10 times over. She'd have the title. They should have the reign of 16 by now. So give me some information. What's happening with the recent becoming a mother, Ronda Rousey?
Yeah, so that's in my news this week. So I actually got that from a unique source this week. But Ronda Rousey is returning to the WWE. I believe it's at the start of the year. They're looking to load up this WrestleMania. They're looking at their options for doing WrestleMania in 2 nights in Dallas. The only way they would do this is if you have Brock Lesnar challenging for the Raw title, which would be against Big E or Bobby Lashley. I would probably say Bobby Lashley. Then you would have the Ronda Becky match, and this would just be night 1, because night 2, the only way that you compete with the Rock and Roman on night 2 is by making night 1 massively stacked with main events, because nobody's buying night 1 if you've got Brock and the Rock on the same show, or even if you've got Ronda and the Rock on the same show. You can't. You have to load one and you have to have the Rock on the other. I don't think they will get all the people that they want to do 2 nights. I think it's crazy to try and sell out Dallas Stadium for 2 nights when you probably can't even sell out 1. It doesn't make any sense. If they're going to do it in terms of a configuration where they're looking at 60,000 a night in cheaper tickets, just simply because they understand that WrestleMania is more digestible as 2-3.5 hour shows, as opposed to torturing us for 8 hours.
I'd rather be tortured, to tell you the truth.
What, for 8 hours?
The 8 hours is a bit rough. When it was 7 that one time, it was painful. But I do like the looking forward to this is the day of Mania and scheduling. Like, it's a big event. You're getting your food, you're getting your friends together, and this is your one night. If you have a spouse or whatever, you don't have to be like, sorry, the whole weekend's booked with this horrible wrestling. I do like a one event night, but how about they just change it to 4 to 5 hours? I mean, 5's even rough, but you could do that instead. How about you don't need every single person that's in your company to have a match. I love this, that everyone's rewarded. Oh, we'll have Battle Royale. Everyone, the whole back is empty because everyone has to be on this show. No.
Dude, it'll be WrestleMania week by the time we're like...
Oh, God. Okay. Let me know about what is Balor versus the Demon.
That's what it says on the notes. So yeah, this is a follow-up kind of from what we said on the draft. So he's just come off NXT, where he's played the Prince gimmick, which is kind of like his indie gimmick, where he was like a tweener. Not like
Velveteen Dream Prince gimmick. Different.
No. We actually had a funny story on the other side of the show. On the preview of this, when we were talking to Disco and Conan about Finn Balor, because Conan brought up something about the when he was geared towards the LGBTs. Mm-hmm. And you remember me telling you that they actually thought that he was LGBT.
Yes.
When they were doing that, right, which was a mistake, because when Balor asked for time off to get married, Stephanie,
what's his name?
Yeah, exactly. Stephanie McMahon, who came up with this whole, LGBT character, was like, what the hell? Like, and they dropped the whole thing. So that was one thing, that one direction they went with. So the direction that they're going into now will be back to Finn Balor and utilizing the Demon as much as they can, just because this is simply determined by merchandise sales. Finn Balor on the main roster wasn't pushed properly, but always in the top 5 or 6. Now, I always get the merchandise list from my guy every quarter. I even get like updates on them. We did a big thing on merchandise last week. So if you want to check out Wrestling Informer episode 1, you can see the extensive breakdown we did on merchandise, which actually centered around Bray Wyatt's merchandise still selling and Stone Cold Steve Austin's merchandise getting back into the top 10, which sounds ridiculous, but it isn't if you listen to the explanation on last week's show. But Finn Balor, since he's been the Prince and since he's been on NXT, hasn't been in that top 10. So despite the fact that the marks and the indie guys and the guys that watch AEW and WWE and the neckbeards, they all love this indie version of Finn Balor. And I could be talking to people that are watching, so no offense. But
no, he'll insult you to your face on Twitter. Go ahead.
Right. But yeah, it's not, they don't care about you. If this is you, they don't care about you. What they care about is selling shit to kids. The Demon masks move. The Demon t-shirts move. My kid likes the Demon. Other kids like the Demon. Adults like the Demon. The Demon is what Vince McMahon likes. Most importantly, in this company that is an audience of 1, and the rest of you don't matter either. So yeah, this is the thing. Demon versus Balor. The Demon is going to be seen 6 or 7 times a year. I'm shocked that they beat him on a nothing B show with that top rope finish. But still, like, the moving over to Raw, they'll now be like, oh, he's never lost on Raw.
Because he's lost in NXT and he's lost in SmackDown now. Okay. Yeah. We're going to keep going. Oh, he's never lost on this continent before. That's what it's going to change into. The last story, I think, is insane. Actually,
do you know that I believe Hulk Hogan is undefeated on WrestleMania on his continent? Oh, sorry, not his continent, his country.
Oh, in Hulk Hogan's country?
Yeah, in Hulk Hogan's in the US. Hulk Hogan is undefeated in America at WrestleMania.
Oh, that's funny. That's true. Because I was thinking, I go, wait a minute. Oh yeah, they were in Canada.
Who did he lose to? Warrior
and Rock.
Rock in Canada. Twice.
Wow. Canada's not for him. So this story, the bullet point I'm going to say is talk about Queen of the Ring. It is not what you think.
Yeah, so the Queen of... It's not called the Queen of the Ring. I keep seeing this. So I sometimes, like, I don't just get bits of news handed to me on a plate. Although, from next week, let me tell you something right now. You're not going to need to subscribe to Mike Johnson or Dave Meltzer or Sean Ross Sapp. These people have been stealing my shit, and I've been kept under the radar for the last 2 years. So now I have this platform. I'm literally going to steal their shit. I'm going to tell you.
One-stop shop.
Yep. All you have to do, you don't need to listen. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to listen to anything or anything. You just come here and I'll tell you what they're saying behind their paywalls. Like, because this is
and give them full credit. This is what this person has said. That's
the difference.
Not what they do for you. Not at all.
I'll give them full credit for their boring stories, even though they've been stealing mine for years and claiming them as their own. I'm not going to do that because my stories are good and interesting. Their stories are and boring, and I will give you their stories for free just so you don't have to pay them the money.
And what are we going to call that segment?
We're going to call it the Eric Bischoff segment on the show, or something, Bischoff Bites or something like that.
There you go. Yeah, and because if anybody knows, of course, it's because Bischoff spoiled everything for everybody. He would tell what was going on. And
we recently interviewed Bischoff, and that was out of spite as well. And
our longtime dear close personal friend Eric Bischoff.
Yep. So we recently did a thing with Bischoff, and it was good actually. If you guys want to check it out, it's on our podcast on a poll.
And he even said it was the best question he's ever been asked in the history of his life.
He didn't say that. He said it was. He said it's a good question.
I'm hanging on to that I'm framing that. Put it on the wall.
Yeah. So what he's talking about is that I wrote out every question for the show. And Cav asked the question that wasn't in the notes. And Bishop said,
and that was the one he popped for.
And he goes, that's a good question. He goes, and I really mean that because, like, I do a lot. I've been asked
I've done 20 years worth of these and never heard that before.
Yeah.
Thank you. So find out what that question was. Everyone could go listen.
Yeah. So
that's on the podcast on a poll feed.
But yeah, Bischoff, being around Bischoff, he's a very inspirational guy. And our inspiration was, I know what we'll do. We'll steal it. We'll steal people's and give it away for free. So yeah, we're gonna do that next week because I don't like Ryan Satin and I don't like Sean Ross Sapp, and I actually don't mind Dave Meltzer. I think he's the one that annoys me.
He started it. He started it. You have to give credit. He started that type of business with all the news and scoops and everything like that. Sure, he doesn't have as much information anymore, but he did start that genre. So credit where credit's due.
Yeah. So actually, I may leave the Wrestling Observer off. I haven't decided yet, but you'll definitely get some free next week that you shouldn't be getting. And
guess what? I'm sure the Wrestling Observer has most of the stories that you're going to end up because they all end up having the same damn story anyway.
But let me warn you about this though. Let me warn you about this. Where is it? 1 second. Let me find because I looked at this stuff this week. It's going to be stuff like this. So this is what you're getting behind this paywall. The Inspiration, formerly the Iconics, have stepped up their podcast game. Fightful Select has learned that Cassie Lee and Jess McKay, formerly Peyton Royce and Billy Kay, stole my name.
100.
Billy Kay have signed with Heard That Media, which do a lot of sports podcasts and Hollywood Raw. The duo wrapped up season 1 of their podcast last week with 20 episodes. And we're told that season 2 will begin filming on October the 28th. We're complete with a new set and equipment.
They're actually getting equipment. Well, they're already ahead of you then, Billy.
Sean Ross Sapp with that is the story.
Why do you think they haven't been signed on a serious note anywhere?
Because of their equipment. They didn't have the right boots and tights.
Now they got the right boobs. So we just saw one of them got new ones.
One of them got new ones. Yeah, the other one was fine. She's got everything.
She's
Like,
already,
she's got-
yes, she's had quite a few. If they have a baby, they're gonna go, whose is this? That's always the problem. Like Michael Jackson have a kid, you go, what kid is this? What are you talking about? That's why you know those white kids weren't Michael Jackson's. I almost said Billy.
Should we do the story and get ourselves?
Yes. And let's get the hell out of here before we're cancel cultured.
Yeah. All right. So the Queen of the Ring is not the Queen of the Ring. It's called the Queen's Crown, right?
Yes, the one that's the wrestling King of the Ring equivalent is the Queen's Crown, but this is Queen of the Ring.
Yeah. So this was a trademark issue. They can't get Queen of the Ring trademarked. This is because Queen of the Ring is owned by a South Korean television company. The Queen of the Ring is a South Korean television drama that's already done and dusted. It only lasted 6 episodes, but they own the trademark. So actually,
they can't get this. I mean,
well, they can't get it. Well, they can. They can call their thing Queen of the Ring because it can be too. But if something's trademarked and you want to start making money off it, that's when it becomes tricky because you need to then start paying out percentages to the people that own the trademark, which is how it works. So that's why it's good to, like, you know, if you think of something that's going to be like great, like you can go and trademark it. Like, you know, if somebody, you know, pops out of the blue and becomes famous and you own their domain name, they're going to want that back off you.
Because I'm figuring they could just pay those people for the trademark and they owe them nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the thing. Like, I don't know if this show's coming back or not. The show is a fantasy romance drama series where a girl finds a magical ring that transforms her into the most dateable person.
Is that ring that like MJF wears? Is that what that's supposed to be?
Dude, I've never heard of this show before. This is the information I got. Like, basically, the text back I got is trademark issue. So I just Googled Queen of the Ring and found out this was the trademark. So
when I first got this news from you, I literally thought WWE was having a show in South Korea with their diva people on it doing this. And I was like, what in the hell are they doing? It makes more sense that it's just a Korean show. A fantasy romance show. And I guess they want to make their own brand by calling it Queen of the Crown, whatever the hell
but it's odd when you run it alongside King of the Ring. It goes, this is the King of the Ring, and this is obviously the Queen of the Ring. No, it's the Queen's Crown. Why? So I heard all the why all week, so I went and found out why, and this is why. Last story, not on the notes, just because I'm getting asked a lot about it. Yes, WWE coming to the UK. Yes, it's at the moment supposed to be SummerSlam. Yes, it's the 30th anniversary, and at the moment, unfortunately, it's in the Principality Stadium in Cardiff. This is just for costs and for practicality reasons.
Is that big?
It's big. It's a big stadium, 70,000.
Okay.
It has a retractable roof, and a lot of the other stadiums don't. Also, the London stadiums that they would be looking at are charging a lot more. We're in the midst of the soccer season. There's international fixtures at this time. NFL comes to England and they play their games at Tottenham Stadium now instead of Wembley. That's becoming the new big stadium. It's a really nice place to watch sport. But so they're going to take the cheap route. They're going to go to Cardiff. They're going to make sure they can't get rained on, so they've got a roof as well. So everything they want is in Cardiff, except nobody wants to go to Cardiff. That's the only issue.
Okay. That's it. That's your news for this week on K100. Keeping It 100's YouTube channel, where Billy and I will be here each week giving you the rundown of what's happening.
We think we will be. Like if we don't get if we don't get too many cancel emails.
I don't think they would care, to tell you the truth. You know what? As long as you're viewing it,
I don't think we even said anything like remotely touches the surface of what we say on our own show. So.
No, our own show's insane, so you want to go over there. Like we said, you can find Billy on Twitter at Billy, BILLIK100, as well as going to his lockbetting.com and SGP Soccer on Twitter. All of my nonsense is at Lingus Mafia. I do a podcast where I don't talk about wrestling at all. And I also do a podcast where I only talk about wrestling, which seems to be the thing, Billy. Who would have known that the world explodes when you talk about wrestling? Unbelievable. It sells I'll do it.
It does when you haven't done it for a while.
Yeah, big time. And the formula I have is all over it's on the Dirty Sheets right now. If you want to listen to it over there, it's on mine, Lingus Mafia podcast on Apple, all that kind of stuff. If you want to give a taste and see if you like my brand with Fausti Walnuts and hear what we have to say. So that's it. I'm Cav. He's Billy. And we'll see you next week.
Oh, I'm supposed to end this.
Yeah, you are.